A flash of blue light rips through the darkness. Loki steps out of a tear in space-time, his sly grin and gleaming scepter hinting at a coming storm written in the stars. Iron Man slices through fire and rubble, drawing a trail of burning steel across the New York skyline, his armor a defiant statement of lone wolf resilience. And then comes the Hulk, roaring through the chaos, every punch splitting the sky and shaking the world awake, reminding it that justice never truly sleeps. This isn't just a visual spectacle, it's a misunderstood masterpiece. Beneath its superpowered clashes and larger-than-life set pieces lies a razor-sharp allegory about division, unity, and the fragile state of the modern soul. Director Joss Whedon doesn't just direct a superhero movie, he detonates the genre from within, raising one haunting question. Behind every heroic sacrifice, is there a choice that could rewrite fate itself? In these 30 seconds of cinematic electricity, we witness how broken pasts forge hopeful futures, and maybe, just maybe, the real secret lies in the cracks they tried to hide. When Joss Whedon and the Marvel team set out to craft the Avengers, they weren't just chasing a franchise milestone, they were rewriting the superhero rulebook. Inspired by the legacy of classic comic book arcs and the gritty intimacy of late 90s indie cinema, Whedon envisioned a new kind of superhero narrative. One where individual egos crash into collective duty, and where Captain America's moral backbone, Iron Man's fractured redemption arc, and Hulk's bottled fury could collide to spark something explosive and honest. The journey, however, wasn't smooth. Early drafts featured bold, unconventional scenes that nearly got axed due to budget restraints and studio concerns. One of the biggest changes came in the casting of Bruce Banner. The baton passed from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo, bringing with it a quieter, more introspective take on the Green Giant. Every set piece, from a helicarrier's mid-air implosion to the long-take tracking shot during the Battle of New York, was relentlessly tested, tweaked, and tuned to strike that rare balance between awe and emotional weight. Even in the edit bay, Whedon made careful choices. He left in a few seemingly offhand, almost fragmented moments, tiny scenes that, in truth, spoke volumes. They hinted at unspoken sacrifices, at the silent glue binding this chaotic team together. That precise attention to creative intent and cultural undercurrent is what elevated the Avengers beyond a billion-dollar smash hit. It turned it into a critical turning point in the evolution of superhero storytelling. At its core, the Avengers speaks in a rich cinematic language. Cool blues and steel grays dominate the underground SHIELD lab, suggesting a sterile world on the brink of unraveling. Then, as New York erupts into chaos, the screen bursts with reds and golds, colors that reflect not only the fury of war, but the warmth of sacrifice and solidarity. Every frame is meticulously designed, every camera movement intentional. Take the moment Iron Man arcs across the city sky. The glint of metal against firelit clouds becomes a modern mural of tech-fueled defiance and lonely heroism. Even the supporting characters carry symbolic weight. Black Widow isn't just a skilled fighter. She's the emotional compass, her quiet control embodying the resilience of the often overlooked. Hawkeye's temporary downfall and recovery mirror the human struggle to reclaim agency amidst chaos. Their subtle arcs serve as scaffolding for the film's deeper themes: trust, duty, and the cost of standing together. Production design adds another layer. The helicarrier isn't just a floating fortress, it's a metaphor for fragile authority, hovering above disaster. The Tesseract represents more than power, it's the visual embodiment of dualities, chaos and order, creation and ruin. And Loki, drawn from Norse myth, brings with him not only the allure of rebellion, but a painful meditation on identity, envy, and being the outsider. Through these visual metaphors, the Avengers becomes more than popcorn fare. It becomes a mythic bridge between ancient symbolism and the anxieties of the digital age. If the visual language of the Avengers builds its surface appeal, then its narrative structure is like a precision-tuned emotional device, quietly steering the audience's feelings beneath the spectacle. The film may follow the classic three-act structure, but it weaves in intentional fractures and emotional resets between acts, like subtextual fault lines. In Act 1, each hero is tuned individually, like instruments finding their frequency. Act 2 introduces deliberate dissonance, ideological clashes, broken trust, the unraveling of the team. Then Act 3 detonates with Coulson's death, a raw emotional trigger that transforms chaos into cohesion. This break-it-before-you-build-it approach means the final battle isn't just physical, It's a ceremonial uniting of values, identity, and purpose. Looking at Whedon's earlier work, from Firefly to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, his affection for loners in the crowd has always been clear. But here he amplifies it. Every Avenger, no matter how powerful, is alone in some way. Tony Stark doesn't trust the system, Bruce Banner fears himself, Thor is torn between worlds, and Steve Rogers is literally out of time. Whedon rubs these fractured identities against each other until they spark, not into one messiah, but into a collective we. It's a bold rejection of the lone savior myth. This isn't a movie about being the hero, it's about becoming each other's hero. That shift hasn't gone unnoticed in academic circles. The film walks a tightrope between heroism and militarization, and not without controversy. On one hand, we cheer when Iron Man intercepts the nuke. On the other, some critics argue that victory comes through escalating violence and ignoring authority. S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer a beacon of moral clarity, it's an ethically murky institution. And the Avengers? They're not obedient soldiers. They win by going off-script when the moment demands it. That tension adds another layer to the film, a critique of institutional justice. When the world is falling apart, what's more trustworthy, orders or conscience? But the Avengers didn't just build a myth, it reflected our own. Its story of cross-border collaboration and collective strength mirrored a world grappling with global challenges, from climate change to pandemics. The battle for New York wasn't just an alien invasion, it was a reflection of our own vulnerabilities in the face of the unpredictable. The film captures both our technological ambitions and our human fragilities, echoing today's unease over AI, digital surveillance, and ethical overreach. In a world growing more complex by the day, the movie reminds us that cooperation, real, messy, human cooperation, is our best defense. And its cultural ripple effect? Massive. Lines like, "I'm always angry," and moments like Tony's sacrifice spawned countless memes, mashups, TikToks, and parodies. Fan art exploded. Academic essays followed. The Avengers became a pop culture touchstone and a subject of philosophical debate. What does heroism mean today? How do teams work when everyone's broken in their own way? How does trust survive in a world built on secrets? The film also sparked a fresh conversation about identity and expectation. Every Avenger wears a symbol, but behind it is someone wrestling with doubt, guilt, or pain. Just like many modern-day professionals and public figures, celebrated on the outside, but burdened by invisible pressure. This tension hits a nerve. It asks, in today's crisis-ridden world, can any of us afford to wait for someone else to be the hero? Or must we step up ourselves? The message is clear. Unity isn't a slogan, it's survival. Want more stories that explore what it really means to be a hero in a broken world? Here are 3 under-the-radar films that hit similar emotional notes. Chronicle 2012, a grounded, found-footage take on what happens when regular teens suddenly gain powers. Think less save the world, more survive your trauma. It's a raw, unfiltered take on power, corruption, and choice. Defender 2009, a dark comedy about an ordinary man who believes he's a superhero. Equal parts hilarious and heartbreaking, it exposes the loneliness behind the mask and the absurdity of moral absolutes. Turbo Kid 2015, a love letter to 80s post-apocalyptic cinema. With VHS aesthetics and surprising emotional heft, it follows a teen's journey from comic book escapism to real-world courage. Endearingly weird, unexpectedly moving. And as Tony Stark once declared, with a smirk and steel in his voice, "I am Iron Man." Those 4 words aren't just about ego, they're about owning your choice, your sacrifice, your identity. After the Battle of New York, each Avenger walked away changed. And maybe that's the point. Heroism isn't about being invincible, it's about choosing to keep showing up, even when you're broken. So here's a thought experiment. What if they hadn't made that final sacrifice? What if they'd looked away, waited for someone else, followed protocol instead of their gut? Would the Avengers still matter the way it does today? Or would it have just been another movie where the world ends? In the comments, drop one emoji that captures your feeling after watching the film. Collision Spider, Shield, Brain High Voltage, which one are you?